Doubles and coffee. Wow, Marvan. Wow, marvelous Marva. Race. Now, to Trinidad and Tobago, I was wondering whether to bother, whether to ignore the stupidity, the abject asininity of Marvin Gonzalez's statement about whether he sees some boards appointed, and let's just say there've been about 12 or 15 boards out of 153 boards that need to be appointed. His analysis is that he thought he was in Bangladesh or Delhi. First of all, he's such a consummate dunce. Bangladesh is a country. Delhi is a city. You idiot, Marvin Gonzalez. But furthermore, it's clear, if it is not pellucid to you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, after repeated attempts, clear examples of PNM's mission and vision to divide this country and to get people to attempt and to keep voting on race since Dr. Williams in 1960, 1961, with Massa Day done, recalcitrant minority, lagoon, discussion, Sushila, playing games with red monkeys, pulling off the sari of an Indian woman in a PNM family day, no. If you all don't realize that the PNM has to resort to race card because they lack substance, they lack policy, they lack intelligence, they lack creativity, they lack the ability to lead. So Marvelous Marva is just a mirror of the PNM, the Balize House teachings, the PNM thought process. For Marvelous Marva to just watch names and say that he thought he's in Bangladesh or Delhi and therefore something is wrong, and then to make the fallacious claim that PNM and Keith Rowley used to go through and put the most diverse boards that represent the tapestry of cultures, ethnicities, and religions in Trinidad and Tobago is just poppycock. It's just lies. It's just not true. However, you never hear the UNC saying, well, boy, the NIDCO board under PNM had one Indian and 1 out of 11 Indian. Let me read something. I don't want to go into this stupidity because it's kind of given or trying to be scientific with stupidity. Anytime a racist statement is made, it's not made on logic. So let me just deal with this quickly and then get back. Under PNM, self-help board, no Indian. Tech, 1 Indian. Out of, well, I give a kind of Douglas. I put throw me in there. 1 out of 9. NIDCO, 1 out of 7. CPEP, 1 Indian out of 11 under PNM. NEDCO, 2 Indian out of 11. Now, having done that simple, ridiculous, superficial mathematics, let's get into the real talk. A racist does not use brain. Racists don't use examples of policy positions to just create, concoct, and manufacture a philosophy. So, for example, if Marvin Gonzalez just sees names that appear to be Indian and immediately gets scared and thinks that there's going to be oppression in Trinidad and Tobago, many things come to mind about who Marvin Gonzalez is. Number one must present, without fear or favor, a factual position illustrating for racism to exist or for discrimination to exist. One must say that first and foremost, one race has power, okay, and then one must show that the race who had power used their power to discriminate against another race. So in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, let us say, we don't have no CSO latest statistics. I think the last CSO survey was way back in 2009 or something. But the elections and boundaries, the political analysts and so on will say that the population of Trinidad and Tobago is basically 38% Indo-Trinidadian and Tobagonian, 37% Afro-Trinbagonian, and the rest is mixed up like me, Douglas, Chinese, Syrian, mix up, mixed breed, all kind of thing. That's the basics. Now, when Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC with the People's Partnership was in charge, one must be able to go and look at their policy and say, well, all right, even though the TOP was in the government, African-based, NJAC was in the government, African-based, MSJ was in the government, mixed African and Indo-Labor base, Congress of the People was in the government, mix up all how. One has to say or show, in order to create some sort of couture or some sort of position that has relevance about racist because Indian in charge or anything, you have to show policy positions that discriminated against one group. So Kamla Persad-Bissessar, first thing, Children Life Fund. If you noticed yesterday, one of the first recipients of life, a baby who would have died, it's a young black boy from Marva. When you see laptop distribution, well, did Kamla only give Indian laptop and leave out her African children? No. When you saw the increase in food cards from 18,000 to 48,000, increase in sport funding, increase in Calypso funding, prize money, Soca Mana, increase in football support for TT Pro League, even though football is 97% African-based, Afro youths, girls and boys, Pro League, Super League. So when you look across the board, there's not an iota of evidence to say anyone with an East Indian name, when given power, has discriminated against anybody of Afro descent. So it is a ridiculous, asinine position. Secondly, without even an analysis of qualifications, the people, track record, experience, the goals of the board, what mission, what philosophy they need to implement, Marvelous Marvin PNM Gonzalez just says he see Indian name and therefore he thought he was in Bangladesh or Delhi and it worries him. And if it doesn't worry you, well, something is wrong. Well, what worries the population is how you could be so sick without an iota of proof, without evidence. If you believe in the national anthem that we stand tall to and turn towards the flag, every creed and race finds an equal place. And may God bless our nation to have grown up in Trinidad and Tobago and to even come up with that concept without evidence, without a policy, without a decision being made, shows that something deep within the PNM is rotten to the core. Furthermore, and I've made notes of this because this has to be the end of the PNM forever. Let me ask the Minister of Public Utilities, since he is a proud black man, how many black people suffered for water under you as opposed to under the Indian Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar? Because Kamla Persad-Bissessar in 2014 had the population getting 24/7 supply in their pipes up at 74%. You took that down in 2023 to 12%, a decrease of 62%. What percentage, Marvelous Marvin Gonzalez, of that 62% of people that you took water from, life-saving water, what percentage of those people were black people? Plenty, and well, therefore, I could show evidence that your policies discriminated against and brought pain and suffering to black people. Therefore, it is a more cogent statement that PNM is anti-black people. Let me also ask you, what happened when Kamala gave out laptops to everybody and you all took away. How much black people, black children, African children you took laptops from? You took food card from? You closed down THTTI. How many black children lost opportunities to go there? UTT, NESC, MIC closures and lack of funding, throwing out programs from UTT and so on. Baby milk grants. How many black African people lost the ability to get a baby milk grant, and pharmacies and grocery had to start to lock up baby milk? When you all cut textbooks that Kamala Prasad Biswas and Tim Gopi Singh, two Indian, was giving $133 million per year in textbooks to children, how many of those children were black African children? And when you cut that from 133 million down to 30 million, how many black African children suffered from not getting textbooks? What about PAN in schools? What about counselors and psychologists in schools that Tim Gopi Singh had in there to help our at-risk children and to guide them? You took that away. The sport caravan, the sport camps for 20,000 children. How many young black children lost opportunities because of the policy of the PNM as opposed to the policy of, as you say, the Indian, the UNC, Kamala Prasad Biswas? I put it to you that the evidence is clear that the PNM is sick, that they should never be in a leadership position because they don't believe in Trinidad and Tobago. They don't believe that we are melting pot. They don't respect everybody. And they come to conclusions based on emotion. Anytime you make a racist statement or you talk nonsense or you say that you're afraid of names on a piece of paper without showing policy positions, decisions, anything that discriminates, then something is wrong with you. You're not thinking with your mind. To be afraid of another race or group or gender means that you are insecure in yourself. You have low self-esteem. That's the genesis of racism, you know. Black people suffered all over this world for 400 years. Why? Because the people who had the power, the people who had control, were afraid of the brilliance of black people, the intelligence, the strength, the speed, the power, the community, the religion. And that's where racism raised its head. In Trinidad and Tobago, a PNM cult that had power for 9.5 years suffered everybody. Every creed and race suffer under the PNM. Now that they're lost and decimated, they don't know what to do. The cabinet didn't even have, they had one Hindu out of 25. They didn't have policies of equity. There was open prior discrimination during COVID, geographical discrimination. They are the ones calling race card. That is bad card. You draw bad card. Since in 2011, when I had to answer a question to the late Marlene McDonald about which groups were getting funding for sport across Trinidad and Tobago from the sport company and the ministry, she thought that when I got up to answer the question, I would have said Barakpo, Kuva, Chaguanas, Princess Tongue, all of these things. When I start to read out each and every place as PNM from Karanaj, come across the Mango Rose, Lavanti, Beta, Malabar, inside, outside, Maloney, and so on, she jump up and tell me, okay, I don't want to hear no more. You could give the answer in writing. I said, no, ma'am, I researched the question and I want to answer you. I took the whole 45 minutes of question time, and any group from anywhere who requested medals, trophies, ribbons, a little help, sports day, family day, any group, football, cricket, darts, chess, Scrabble, was getting support. Because that's how Kamala Prasad Biswas operates. That's when you have power, you share it. You share the resources to each and everyone. You provide smooth roads for everyone, not for one race, not for one type. For anybody to even think that way, it's very sad. It's sick. It shows that their character is missing. That Balize House, their development was thwarted by disgusting objectives. Do I believe that they're all racist? No. They've been taught that the only way to stay in power for the PNM is to play the race card, not to perform, not to provide equity, not to lift people from poverty, not to provide education, not to be a country based on merit. Just say, well, if you're black, vote PNM, and we have the EBC boundaries designed to keep us in power since 1961 at Marlborough House when Williams lied to Capildeo. So just play the race card and look how quiet it is. Where the president, what the president have to think about Marvin say, what the independent senators have to say, what the media have to say. Imagine if a UNC made that disgusting statement. Reject PNM. Reject Marvelous Marva. Totally disgusting.